Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
Back at you and Gloves Off, and today we got a tremendous guest, and our guest is State Representative Don McLaughlin, and he represents Laredo, South Texas, from Uvalde all the way down to Zapata, I believe, and it's a great area that he has, and it's an area that has a lot going on in the sense of transportation and import-export and all kinds of activities. How are we doing today?
We're doing good. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing great. How's your, you just got elected. You're up there in the House for the first time. How do you feel?
Well, I've enjoyed it. It's very interesting. It's a little different coming up here as a rep from a mayor's position. There's a lot more steps you have to go through up here. And of course, at my age, I never thought I'd be a freshman in anything again. So, but I'm a freshman, so I'm enjoying it, and a lot to learn up here. But I've really enjoyed it so far. Getting to talk to people from the district, getting to talk to the counties, the cities that have come up there for whether it be Laredo days or Webb County days or Atascosa County days, or you get to actually talk to some of the elected officials there to see what some of the problems are, as well as just everyday people from the district you get to talk to. So I've enjoyed that.
That's wonderful. Go ahead.
And I think we filed. I can't list them all by heart, but I should, but I can't. But I think we filed 24 bills. We've got one bill that we're really pushing strong, House Bill 33, which will deal with school safety and law enforcement coordination, which I think is very important.
Can you explain that bill a little bit more?
Sure. In the 88th session, the legislature, after the Robb School tragedy in Uvalde, they passed House Bill 3, which required to make sure all officers had alert training. They had the proper equipment that they would need, breaching tools, whether ballistic shields or whatever, that those agencies had those. But the one thing that I saw and we saw from all the reports of that day was there was no collaboration, no working together. So in House Bill 3, the sheriffs now of the counties are required to hold 2 meetings a year with all law enforcement first responder entities in their county. So what we did, we said, well, we want everybody to come together, school police department, constables, police departments, sheriff's department, and your DPS partners, that they all come together and meet 3 times a year. Well, 2 of those meetings are already covered in House Bill 3 of, the sheriff will hold a meeting in the county where everybody meets together. And the 3rd meeting would be a training meeting where all these entities would meet, whether they go to the range and they're shooting a gun together, or they're walking through a school or an office building, but just so they get to know each other, so they know how to interact with each other. And, the last thing we need is what we saw in Uvalde, is mass confusion, mass chaos, where you get there and nobody takes charge. This will also, if you get to the scene and just say, I'm the first officer on scene, I don't set up a command post, I don't let anybody else come in, then another officer, maybe from another agency, says, hey, you haven't established this, I'm taking command, so that we don't have that breakdown again. And I think it's really important. I would love to say there's never going to be a school shooting again. It was God's my witness. I hope there never is, but it's not a matter. It's not a matter of if. It's just a matter of when. But this would hopefully make our departments ready for it. And right now, if you went to most of your departments, like the school police department, they have their own their active shooter policy. The police department has their own active shooter policy. The sheriff has their own active shooter policy. DPS has their own active shooter policy. So when you get there, you got everybody trying to work under 4 different policies. This would make you adopt one uniform policy that TDM would work with DPS and the school safety center, and they would adopt one uniform active shooter response plan that they would all adopt. That way they wouldn't be trying to follow 4 different plans. They would be following one, which I think just makes good common sense.
Would that one be each one of them is going to be training instead of each one now? Everybody's going to adopt just one training.
They're going to. The training is required under alert. You have to go through a minimum of 60-hour alert active shooter training program. Every law enforcement officer, if you hold a law enforcement certificate now, you have to go through that training. It's mandatory. So all this does is if you've got officers in your department, we also have a deal in here from the governor's criminal justice program that you can apply for a grant. Say you're a small department and you can't afford to send your officers, well, you can apply for a $25,000 grant to send those officers to that school. Then the next year you need to get reaccredited or whatever. There's another $12,500 you can apply for, but it makes sure all your officers are trained.
Absolutely. So in other words, everybody's going to be under one instead of the way it is right previous to this bill.
Yes. And and like I said, just to me, that's what we saw that day. One, everybody had plans, but nobody implemented them. This way, you would also have a public information officer, and your officers would go through a command training also. So your police chief, your sheriff, part of their seconds command are going to go through this command staff training, so that if they're on scene, they know what to do to get it done, to get set up.
Absolutely. How about federal agencies? Are they going to try to follow the same protocol, or
we will? I imagine if it's like us in Uvalde, and I'm sure and y'all do it in Laredo already. Y'all, a lot of times when y'all meet, you bring your federal partners to that meeting too, and most of this will probably be the same because it's actually going to come under a plan that we're taking the word FEMA out of the Federal Emergency Management deal. But my understanding is they have a standardized plan. This will come through TDM. Like I said, it'll come through Texas Department of Emergency Management, Texas Department of Public Safety, and the School Safety Center. All 3 of those agencies would agree on and adopt a plan, and basically it would follow the guidelines of the federal plan. It would just adapt to it. And look, once you're going to have to adapt these a little bit because one size isn't going to fit all. San Antonio can follow the same plan 100% that Laredo can, but again, they'll have one plan that they all their agencies in that county adopt to. It'll be tailored a little bit. The plans may vary a little bit, but they'll all still be one uniform plan for everybody in that county to follow.
Absolutely. That's a great bill. What other bills do you see coming up that are going to affect not only Texans but those in your area?
The one bill that we're going to be pushing, and I'm going to show my ignorance here a little bit. I can't tell you everything, but we are addressing. We did put out a bill on the colonials to address the colonials, for the colonials to be able to work with the water boards, and the water boards enabling the water board up here to work with the colonials to see about getting water into the colonials, and that, which to me is something that we need to get done. I find it very frustrating as a modernized nation as we are, that in Webb County we have 46 colonials, that don't have running water and sewer. To me, that's unacceptable. We need to figure out what we need to do to get that fixed.
Absolutely. See, a lot of people don't know that, and those are the things that we should be doing now to strive to be up there. And it kind of, with everything coming out with Doge, finding out all these trillions going all over the place for for studies that are irrelevant. Actually, this is what we should be paying attention to. We should be cleaning up our own backyard, making sure that everybody's living in a safe environment, because there is places here in Webb County, like you said, there is no sewage, there is no water, and people have to bring it in, they have to truck it in, and it's frustrating when you talk to those individuals, because they always promise us this, they always come up and promise, and I'm finally seeing somebody taking that initiative, that action moving forward.
Well, to me, like I said, I'm with you. How many times have we all been promised something and never comes to fruition? And that's happened a lot in South Texas. We get promised the moon, and they tell us every time election, well, that party blocked me, that party blocked me, or this person blocked me. Well, if you want to block this bill, that's fine, but I'm going to call out whoever blocks it. You're going to know who blocked it. It's not going to be, but we need to address it. I mean, we're a civilized nation, and we should be taking care of our own people. Why are we sending billions to other countries that don't even like us when we could be investing that money in our own country and moving forward and giving people a better life, or better standards anyway, standards of living.
I'm in full agreement with you on that. There's a lot of talk about lowering taxes, especially property taxes. Any news on that? Any bills coming out towards that?
There's several bills on property tax. And look, I get emails every day, eliminate property taxes. And guess what? I'm all for it, 100%. But what are you going to replace it with? I mean, because it goes back to where it talked. You enjoy having your police department. You enjoy having your sheriff's department. You enjoy having a court. You enjoy having a jail. Well, if you take property taxes away completely without something replacing it, you lose all those services, because that's what funds it. But, we need to, Representative Raymond was talking about putting a bill in to cap the appraisal districts, which I'm for. We're going to cap them on what you can raise the value. Because here's what's going to happen, in my opinion. We're talking property taxes up here. We're gonna buy down the property tax rate again with some of this surplus and that, and they're going to do just like they did the last time. As soon as they know what they're going to do, your appraisal district is going to go out, and they're going to raise your property, the value of your property for almost what you just got out of this tax deal. And they'll say, well, your property's gone up, and that's not true. So we need to cap that. I mean, there's several things that we need to do, but also, the misconception here, and don't get me wrong, school districts are bad about wanting to raise the taxes and so forth, and that, but really it comes from the state, because the comptroller sends appraisers out to the Webb County or Uvalde County, and they pull 10 pieces of property. They look at it and say, oh, you're undervalued. So what do? They call the school district and say, oh, you're not going to get funding next year. You're only going to get 80% of your funding because you're 20% undervalued on your property taxes and that. So what does the school district do? They immediately call the appraisal district and say, hey, we just got told by the state we're undervalued, so you got to get our values up. And that's what's driving this, and we need to stop that. It needs to stop, because, I mean, people's property taxes are out of control. We can't, you don't work all your life, own your house, and then when you get to retirement, you're going to face losing your house because your property taxes are so high and you can't pay them. That's ridiculous. We've got to address that.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And right now, Laredo's going through with a $417 million bond, which they say it's only going to raise just a little bit, but it's between 127 to 197 per month for every 100,000. So just imagine what's going to be per year. And many people here have a lot of properties that are commercial. Imagine what's going to happen to all the property value, especially of all these import-export companies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're putting the burden on mom. You're putting the burden on small businesses to carry your deal, and that's what we need to get away from. I mean, look, I'm not against if you need to have a bond or raise some money or whatever, but there needs to be fiscal responsibility in that when you do it. If you're raising $400 million, then we need to know what you're going to do with that $400 million, and we need to see the results of that $400 million. Is it something that's going to enhance what we already have, or are we just borrowing $400 million to call it this project, and the next thing you know, those projects never get done, and we've blown $400 million. We shouldn't. I mean, we need to be responsible in that. A lot of people are screaming about, and you mentioned it, the Doge, and they're starting to Doge up here too in the Texas House. We waste a lot of money. I mean, everybody. I've had people call me and say, "Well, we voted for you and we voted for Republicans, and now you're going to take our Social Security and you're going to take our Medicaid and different things." And if you look, nobody has lost any of their Social Security. Nobody has lost any of their Medicaid. What you've seen is those that were committing fraud under Medicaid and fraud under Social Security, they're losing their Social Security, and rightfully so. But the people that it was designed for that need it, at this point, have not lost any of those, and I don't see them doing it. And it's the same thing we're doing up here. We're going through some of these agencies. Can we combine some of these agencies? Can we cut it? Are they overlapping? Is one agency doing what another agency is doing too, that we can eliminate that agency? That's just good business. I mean, to eliminate excessive waste, and we need to be better stewards. I mean, it's y'all's money. It's the taxpayers of Texas. It's their money, and we need to be better stewards of it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's what's occurring. A lot of people now are kind of waking up. I think the pandemic woke up a lot of individuals, and ever since then, everybody's standing up and saying, wait a minute, it's not going to happen again. And they're being a lot more watchful in which way the money's being spent. And this administration, federal administration, it's opening up more eyes. And and right now, I feel that a lot of small businesses are hurting, and I don't see a lot of them making it within the next 2 years.
I'm still considered in my eyes, I'm still a small business, family owned. I have, I think 86 employees now, but I still consider myself small day to day. But I mean, we've seen our costs rise. We've seen insurance is out of control. We've got to get that. I mean, health insurance is out of control. Liability insurance is out of control. Automobile insurance is out of control. And we've got to get this under control, or our small businesses won't be there. We've got to come up with solutions and answers to figure out how to cut these costs and how to lower these costs. I mean, look, I'm sure I'll make some trial lawyers mad in that when I say this. And look, anytime somebody loses their life in an accident, it's terrible. It is. It's a tragedy. It's a terrible. But me giving you an award of $100 million is not going to bring that person back.
Absolutely.
And me giving you an award of $100 million, you will probably never see that money because that company can't afford to pay it and they'll go bankrupt. Unless you're a major, big, one of the top 50 corporations in America. I'm not saying we don't need to hold people accountable. We do, but we need to be reasonable in what we do in that. I mean, because like I said, $100 million verdict. Look, I realize you want to punish the company, or I get it, but if you punish them when you drive them out of business, and there's 200 people that work for that company or 100 people that work for that company, well, look what we've just done. So we've got.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we've got to start looking at we've got to. I use this word a lot. We've got to start looking at things with common sense.
No, you're absolutely correct, and I believe there's a bill right now that they're trying to pass, that they're trying to raise and trying to receive and make sure that the attorneys get paid their attorney's fee. And when you get stuff like that, and you have a small business, something happens, something occurs, accidents occur, and all of a sudden, the small, how can you just said it? How can I phrase it? How can we pay those attorneys when that company is going bankrupt the same way? I think everything needs to be capped. I think the insurance companies have to have a cap. I think the attorney's fees have to have a cap, and everything else going down the road. Because attorneys are attorneys. They went to the same schooling in Corpus, as well as Uvalde, as well as Zapata, as well as Laredo, what have you, and you have charges. It's one attorney might charge you $100 an hour, the other attorney $1,000 an hour, and it's all over the map. And I think we're more reasonable about that, and we have to understand that, in other words, here's a price, and I mean, I get it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we've got to look at that. I mean, that would help our small businesses. It would help us grow if we could get that under control in that. Again, like I said, to me, we're going to see some pain over the next 6 months, I think, with the new administration but I think it's going to be a pain that, yes, we're going to feel for 6 months or so, but then we'll start to see it turn back the way it needs to turn, and we'll start addressing these things. I think you're even going to see on the federal level that they're going to wake up and say, we've got to address some of these problems that these states are having. When you award somebody a $200 million reward on something, like I said, there are cases where it might be justified, but it's not going to bring back that person. So hopefully we'll work together, and as a state, we'll work together up here. Look, we all need to sit down. Whether I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or I'm an independent, whatever we do up here affects each and every one of us out there. And so we need to put the partisan my way or the highway attitude to the side and sit down at the table. Look, I'm not going to get 100% what I want. You're not going to get 100% what you want, but we ought to be able to find common ground in there that works for everybody.
Absolutely. When the session's, you're in the middle of the session right now.
We are. The session is June the 2nd. We haven't done a lot of. I mean, we're contrary to popular belief. We keep taking these long weekends, and they do. They address on the floor. We're not meeting in the House floor in that, but we're in our offices working on bills, going around talking to our constituents, trying to see what we can do about our bills. And it's not like we're not up here doing anything. I would like to see it move at a faster pace. That's just because of the way I am. But from what I understand, in the next 60 days or 65 days, it's going to get real, real, real busy up here. But I mean, I think you're going to see some good bills that come out of this. I think you're going to see, property taxes are going to get addressed. How, I'm not sure yet. I think school safety is going to be good. But the other thing that we're going to have to really look at is water. We're going to have to start looking at water. I mean, to me, water is still the 800-pound gorilla that really hadn't raised his or thumps his chest up here yet, but will very soon, because water is going to be a huge, huge issue that's going to affect every one of us in this state.
And it's already affecting us. Laredo has been looking for a secondary water source for a very long time, and they seem not to get it. And I've always said, there's apparently we're supposed to have 3 dams on the Rio Grande.
Yeah, that's what somebody told me. There was supposed to be 3 there, and there was only 1 or 2. There's one, Amistad and Zapata, and that's it.
That's it. So I think we need to start building another one in this area, or start looking towards that, because I think Webb County is a big enough place that we can sustain something like that in comparison to some of the other counties. And we need it because that water source can help a lot of towns around here.
Oh yeah, no, it could. I mean, right now you're feeling the crunch, and because right now 90 something% of your water comes from the Rio Grande.
Absolutely.
And I would love to see Laredo have its own water district, so you have a seat at the table when you're dealing with these other deals. I don't. That's local, and that'll be their decision there. I don't know why, but it seems to me if you had a water district, then you can go to the table when you go to all these meetings and speak up. I think you're still going to those meetings, but you don't have a vote because you don't have a water district. But I mean, we definitely going to have to look at other sources. I mean, it's a shame that Mexico's our partner, our neighbor right across, that we should partner with in different things. But they've created part of the water problem that you're seeing along the border, along in Laredo, in the valley, and different things, because they won't release their part of the water under the treaty they signed years ago, and it's creating a problem. I mean, everywhere along the border, from El Paso all the way to Brownsville, McAllen.
Absolutely. And what gets me is the valley is a great agricultural foundation. You know, they have a lot of citrus, a lot of things are grown in those lower counties.
Yeah, it really is. And if you look, you know, the valley had the last only sugar processing plant uh, in Texas. And guess what? Your sugarcane business is gone now, and that plant shut down for one simple reason: they couldn't get the water they needed to grow their crops and to run their plant. And we shouldn't. And part of that stems going back to Mexico, not releasing the water that they're supposed to release under this treaty. And I'm glad to see the administration is in the last couple of days. It seems like I hadn't seen the whole thing, but a couple of news reports where they're not releasing water into other parts of Mexico that the U.S. usually releases because they're not honoring their obligation to Texas.
Absolutely. And that's just the way it is. I mean, unfortunately, that's what's happening with, I hate to say this, the Mexican people, the nationals, they're great. They're great people. It's the government that's a little tainted. And when you have a tainted government, we have problems.
Yes, I agree with you because the people are great people. I mean, they are. It's not the people. It's you know as well as I do the system that goes on over there. The higher up you get, you're going to pay somebody to get something done somewhere, which in effect doesn't do anything but hurt the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't want to, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for what you're doing up there. I know it's a lot of work, and keep us informed. We'll touch base probably towards the end of the session, trying to see where everything ended or what bills were passed, and hopefully your bill passes because we do need that. We need a protection for our kids.
We do. We need to make it kids where they feel like they're there. And I can say this: the speaker and his team have been on board with this bill. Joe Moody from El Paso, just to show you, he's a Democrat. He's on board with this bill. He's actually, I asked him to sign on as a joint author. Ryan Guillen is a joint author on this bill. I mean, we all see it, and it's not a partisan issue. It's a people issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the best way to tackle this. It's a people issue.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you letting me come on. I appreciate the time. I always enjoy visiting with you.
And we'll see you soon. We'll see you soon here in Laredo.
Yes, sir, you will.
All righty. Until next time, you stay safe, and you all out there, you be safe, and let's watch out for those bills that are coming up. Until next time, much peace.
Take care.
Take care.